Welcome to Perverted Justice. This is not just a story. It's a call to action for integrity and radical honesty, in spite of personal cost. Now here's your host, Shielagh Clark.
Welcome back. This is episode 16. I just want to talk a little bit about episode 15. It disappeared, as some of you may have noticed. It disappeared off the internet, except for, I think, on Apple Podcast. It may have stayed up there, back to draft mode. It disappeared from lots of platforms. Something about it was just making me feel really unsettled, and I was losing sleep over it. I knew it needed some edits. Actually, it probably didn't need any edits, but I felt like some of the things that I said were unclear, and I don't like to be unclear. And while I do know that people who are committed to misunderstanding me will find ways to misunderstand me no matter how clear I am, I don't really like to leave obvious opportunities for people to pin incorrect things on me. And I think that was the biggest thing that was bothering me about episode 15. So anyway, I did go in and make a few edits to episode 15, and I'm re-releasing that. Excuse me. Along with episode 16 this week. And I'm actually recording this in the middle of the night in my car in Connecticut. There's nothing formal about this episode at all. Hopefully next time we'll be back with a more thought out and planned out execution of my conversation with Dale and Alex. So, my dream, I had a dream when I woke up. Obviously, I was not actually awake, I was still sleeping, but in my dream, I woke up, there was water pouring out of the ceiling, the walls in my bedroom were bowing and sagging, there was water pouring out of the outlets, things were sparking, and the whole house was flooded. It was about shin deep. And when I woke up and I realized what was going on, I jumped out of my bed and I ran up the stairs to find out where the water was coming from. So, I'm running up the stairs and there are toys floating down the stairs, a river of water running down the stairs. And I ran up the stairs, and my stairs in my house turn. So as I turned the stairs, I, in my dream, found myself not on the second floor of my current home, but instead I found myself in the attic of my parents' house in Staatsburg, New York. And in that house, there was an actual staircase that went up into the attic, and about, I guess halfway up, there was an actual door. You open the door, and the staircase turns. So in my dream, I went from downstairs in my current home to the attic of my parents' home. And this is the home I lived in when I started attending Hyde Park Baptist Church. So I looked back across the attic to the left, and there was a hole in the roof, and water was just pouring in. And I just knew, because dreams are like that this was a spot in the roof that had been repaired poorly in the past, and now it had broken open again, and there was just a torrent of water pouring down into the house. So I turned and I ran back out and down the stairs. And when I went down the stairs, I did not end up on the first floor of my current home, but where I intended to be originally, on the second floor of my current home. And in my dream, all of my children were babies. They were infants. And I scooped them all up at the same time. And I ducked to sort of protect their heads, and And when I did that, the ceilings just started to cave in from the weight of the water, and everything started to fall. And I hunched over, ran out of the house, and then I woke up. And I think that it's significant that in the dream I found myself in the attic of the home I was in when I began attending Hyde Park Baptist Church. I actually moved away from there before my abuse began, but the patch in the roof, I think now, the way that my brain was reconstructing or constructing everything in this imagery was that the patch was the cover-up. The cover-up of what happened before I was abused, the cover-up of what happened involving my own abuse, and it was all of the lies and the hiding that patched the roof, right? And the water was the truth. I spoke up, which destroyed the patch. The truth was pouring through and really destroying. It seemed destructive in the dream. And I believe that my house were the bones of my faith, and everything that was falling off was everything that was untrue. Anyway, I think the dream was just me processing all of the things that were falling apart and all of the fear that I felt in that process, but also the realization that in telling the truth, I was protecting my children, and not just my children, other children growing up in these systems who aren't safe. And the significance of my children all being infants, unable to help themselves, and me scooping them and running out with them, I think is just symbolic of a halt, or at least a slowing, in the transference of generational trauma. I can't save them from everything that they've already experienced because of my history. But turning around and facing it, healing from things, changing the way that I interact, changing the way that I parent, changing the way that I interact with myself, has changed how they will interact, how they will experience the world, how they will parent their own children. Really, I think that's the significance of this dream for me, was sorting through all of the ways that what I was doing was not just for me, but for my children and their children. But I think there's application too for the church. The patch job. The church is afraid of the truth. The church sees me speaking the truth and all of what looks like destruction because of me speaking the truth, instead of recognizing that overhauling, doing a clean out, letting the truth wash away everything that is wrong, everything that is unholy, everything that has been built around protecting a secret, everything that has been built in pursuit of a lie, and starting fresh is a holy and healthy thing. And instead of embracing that, they've tried to patch the roof again with more lies about me, more lies about themselves. And like I said in episode 15, I'm asking people to step out into the light. I'm asking people to let the truth destroy everything that shouldn't be. The bones will stay standing. The framework of what is good and true will remain. And then there can be a fresh start. So in early July, there was a funeral for the mother of one of my high school friends. So I was headed up to the Albany area to attend this funeral. And the Hyde Park Baptist Church was hosting a concert to benefit CareNet, Crisis Pregnancy Center. And they were advertising this concert in support of the unwed mother, the woman in a crisis situation. And it felt very, I don't know what the right word would be. It felt pretty backwards to me that they would be in the middle of a lawsuit with me, who at the time of my attendance or membership there was an unwed mother in a crisis situation who was most definitely not supported by the Hyde Park Baptist Church, also promoting themselves and their care for the mothers of the unborn by hosting a benefit concert for CareNet. And I'm not saying that they can't support this cause. It just felt like really two-faced to me. And I wanted to go so that I could show my face and remind them that I had at one time been an unwed mother who needed care and support. And I did not receive those things from their organization. So anyway, I was headed up, toying with the idea of going, and to come up from South Carolina, I obviously passed through Pennsylvania, and so that week also happened to be VBS week at Weaver's Church. I thought I'd stop in and see Wayne Burgraff, Weaver's pastor, and find out what he was doing to find and support potential victims in his own church, because he had allowed Weaver to volunteer with children for 15 years. So I stopped in mid-VBS, and Wayne came to the lobby. He stood so close to me, like, I don't know how many inches, it felt like 6, but it was probably at least a whole foot. But he was way too close to me. I think when I started the conversation, I said, "Do you have a minute?" And he said, "No, you could have called." And I get that a lot. Everybody wants me to call ahead, but nobody actually wants to have a meeting with me. So if I call ahead, guess who's not getting a meeting? Anyway, I stepped back away from him and tried to continue having this conversation. But when I stepped back, he stepped forward again, right up close to me. And we sort of like snaked around the foyer, me stepping back and him stepping in, me stepping back and him stepping in. And like he was trying to intimidate me or something. Or maybe if he wasn't trying to intimidate me, maybe he was trying to make sure the conversation stayed super quiet so other people wouldn't overhear it. But either way, he was stepping into my personal space and I was stepping back, and he was not. Either he's really bad at social cues or he was doing it on purpose. Obviously, I'm not in his brain, so I don't know what his intention was, but I didn't like it at all. Anyway, I asked him if he believed me, and he acted like he had no idea about any details of my story. And he said that he didn't know anything about me being a child or anything that happened when I was a child. I have proof that Floyd Gonzalez did inform the seminary immediately after Weaver's exposure, not only of when my abuse, my grooming began, but also about the first victim that I told you about early on in this series. he reached out to the seminary right away, and the seminary is where Weaver went, and it's the seminary who placed Weaver into Wayne Burgraff's church. I have no reason to believe that Weaver was put there without Wayne being given all of the information. So Wayne denies being told, and I don't believe him. Wayne was working in connection with Charles McLean and Jeff Tuttle at Calvary Baptist Theological Seminary to restore Weaver. At least Charles McLean and Jeff Tuttle functioned as if what had happened was an affair, despite knowing that it was child abuse. So, during this conversation, Wayne told me that they have encouraged Weaver to repent and he refuses. And also told me that they only come to Sunday mornings now. That's strange to me to admit that he's told someone they need to repent, but has not church disciplined said person for refusing to repent. Also, in the course of this conversation, in his defense of himself and his decision to allow Weaver to continue to attend church despite knowing that he is a child molester, he told me that Weaver is not the only child molester that attends that church. Child molesters don't belong around children. You feel like you need to minister to a child molester, you should take church to the child molester. Or you should have a time when the child molesters can come to church and you can have a special service for them. Child abusers should not have access to children. And people talk about having special programs where you have someone who monitors the abuser while they're in the church. The problem, though, is they keep this all super quiet. And what happens is that child molester is now a familiar face at church. So while they may not interact with a child in church, the child recognizes the adult and recognizes them as a trusted person at church. So if and when they encounter them in the community, they're more apt to trust them. And because churches often keep the status of someone like this a secret, even the entire chaperoning process a secret, parents aren't informed. Parents don't know that this person is not someone who should be around their children. And by allowing them to be in the church and protecting their dark secret, they're actually transferring trust that is undeserved and potentially harmful. There's lots of consequences. And, you go and listen to Jimmy Hinton. He talks a lot about pedophiles and the way that they think. His father was a pedophile pastor. Who's spending the rest of his life in jail. And Jimmy actually reported him to the police, and he has spent a lot of time trying to get inside his dad's head and understand the way pedophiles function. He will tell you that pedophiles should not be around children. They're crafty, and even if they're not touching your child, they are undressing your child in their mind. And church should not be helping a predator in their game. God can forgive a child molester, but one of the consequences, the earthly consequences of molesting children, should be they are never allowed around children again. The church can and should eliminate contact or exposure between a known predator and the children in their church. They should be functioning to protect the children, not to protect the feelings of the predator. Not because they can't be forgiven, but because people like that so rarely ever actually change that your focus should be the protection of the child, not grace or mercy to the predator. If they want church, they can find it in a space without children. Anyway, Weaver's pastor was just a real big jerk. He was so nasty to me the whole time. He was short and, I don't know how to describe it. It was not a good encounter, and I left in tears. He told me what my intention was. He told me that I just wanted something, and I don't remember what it was, but I remember that that's when I started crying, is that I was telling him that's not what I want. That I wanted something very specific. I wanted churches to understand this. I want children to be safe. And I wanted to know what he was doing to find and support potential victims in his own church. And he just repeatedly kept telling me that I wanted something else. I wanted to harm somebody or destroy something, or I can't remember. Anyway, I left there in tears and I headed up to Hyde Park. That was Friday. Concert for Hyde Park was Saturday. So I was talking to Allison, my sister-in-law, about my thoughts about going. And her grandmother attended Hyde Park Baptist Church. Her grandmother and her mother were planning on attending the concert. And because I was planning to go, Tom Slaughter, Allison's father, decided that he also should attend. So the Slaughters showed up for this concert and they brought an extra chair for me. And I sat across the street in the plaza parking lot in my car, watching people pull into the parking lot and trying to decide if I should or if I should not pull in there. And ultimately I decided that I was just going to do it. I was really afraid. I didn't know what was going to happen. I walked in and the Slaughters had set up the extra chair for me right between them. I didn't just have a seat waiting for me at the end of the line. They set up the extra chair and positioned me right between them, which felt a lot like, I don't know, a lot of things like, you're with us and we're not upset about that, and some sort of protection, care, belonging. It's funny what just the positioning of a chair can mean. Anyway, I got there. A lot of people noticed me. No one said hello to me. And as the music started, slowly this little group of men started to form under the tree by the grill. The concert went on. It wasn't interrupted. And then at the end, I went over to make my donation to CareNet. I just gave her the cash I had on hand. I think it was probably like $80. And I told her that I had received services through CareNet or from CareNet back in 2005. She wanted me to sit down and talk to her. I ran back to get my purse. And when I did that, Alex Valentine walked up behind me. And he said, "Hello, Shielagh." And I turned around and I said, "Oh, are we talking now?" And he said, "I would like to talk to you." And so I asked if Murray was going to talk to me. And he said he didn't know where Murray was. Spoiler alert, Murray ran home as soon as the concert was over in order to avoid me. But to be clear, I was not intending to confront anyone. I was just there to show my face, to put a face with the lawsuit, to remind them that I was someone that they know. Anyway, Alex said he didn't know where Murray was, but that he really wanted to talk to me. And I said that I needed to go talk to Deb first. And he said that that was fine. So I talked to Deb for a little while. And when I was done, she asked to give me a hug. When she hugged me, she whispered in my ear, "I see eyeballs," meaning We're being watched. Anyway, while I was talking to Deb, Tom Slaughter apparently had gotten up. Then he went over to say hello to Dale Blue. And Dale Blue stuck his hands in his armpits, refusing to shake Tom Slaughter's hand, and said, "What the hell are you doing?" Because he sat with me. Because he saved me a seat. You sat with the enemy. I'm not shaking your hand. Tom Slaughter decided, when that happened, that he wasn't leaving the church property until I left the church property. So he put his wife and his mother-in-law in the car and sent them home. And he stayed. So it wound up being Alex and Dale on one side of the picnic table, and me and Tom Slaughter on the other side of the picnic table. I will get into what actually transpired during that conversation in the next episode, but I just want to talk a little bit about Tom Slaughter for a minute. I didn't really know Tom Slaughter well at all before this. We weren't communicating about litigation at all. I probably hadn't actually spoken to Tom Slaughter since ever. In fact, I don't know if I ever actually did talk directly to Tom Slaughter before in my entire life. I knew who he was. And obviously I'm married into the same family as his daughter. But we weren't conversing. That's not the way that this was. But when he saw that there was a potential need, he showed up without being asked. When he realized that there might be conflict, he stayed without being asked. He sat in and he listened and he defended me. He defended and protected without being asked. And it cost him something, which I'm sure he would tell you it's not a loss. And his number is saved in my phone now as Dad Slaughter. So next time I'm gonna play some recording. I've just been wrestling with how best to do it because I don't want anyone to think that it's been deceptively edited. So anyway, thanks for listening.
If your community is dedicated to fostering a safe and supportive environment, connect with Grace, Godly Response to Abuse in the Christian Environment, at netgrace.org. Grace's mission is to empower Christian communities to recognize, prevent, and respond to abuse effectively. They provide vital resources and training to help churches understand the complexities of abuse and adopt effective prevention policy and trauma-informed responses.